There is a subset of classic cars that simply get the job done. They might be rare, but they come with scratches, dents and patches of rust. Driving one allows you to splash through the puddles and not be overly concerned about adding another dent to it. Moskvich falls under this category, a classic car for your everyday tasks, but with a touch of style. So today we'll try something different, and rather than diving back in time, we'll bring the past to the modern realities, where the main focus will be on what it's like to drive this car in 2023. As we trace the timeline of Soviet history, we witness the evolution of car design. The 1970s marked as a turning point as cars started to change their rounded contours for more boxy and sharper shapes. Moskvich stands out as an intermediate design with its stylish blend of elements. It definitely has some sharpness, but looking into the radiator grille and wheel arches, they maintain the rounded shape and smooth corners. The car looks super stylish, but sadly, as we'll continue to explore the later chapters of Soviet history, those curvy shapes will be completely gone for simpler, flatter designs. Moskvich was manufactured at two different plants, one in Izhevsk and one in Moscow, and it's widely believed that the cars made in Izhevsk factory were more budget-friendly, but not so attractive in design. Despite this, they had a reputation for higher build quality, outperforming Moscow-made cars in this regard. Here we have a Moscow model, which comes with a more extensive range of features and a more luxurious saloon. Especially the brown coloured seats and soft black dashboard would set it apart from cheaper Izhevsk models, which had dashboards in metal and seats in textile. Just like other Soviet cars, Moskvich underwent regular modernization, and here you have the golden mean, with a brand new engine, a comfortable interior and a lot of chrome details. In later models, chrome parts will be replaced by ugly plastic grills and bumpers. It's hard not to mention developed ergonomics, even by today's standards. The arrangement of seat and controls is well thought out and doesn't pose any issues. Your legs and arms are positioned at the right angles and you don't need to stretch to reach the gear lever. These are undoubtedly significant improvements when compared to the older Soviet cars. Finally, some aspects of safety were introduced to the car, especially the metal dashboard and pillars were replaced with a softer plastic. We even have the seatbelt here, yet despite all these new safety features, the car still doesn't have any mirrors on the sides. Moskvich has become the true symbol of progress. The car received a new engine, which allowed it to successfully enter the world stage. It's widely believed that it was a licensed copy of the BMW M10 engine. Especially the inclined cylinder block and hemispherical combustion chambers were borrowed from BMW, which majorly improved the performance. As a result, 1.5 litre engine generated 75 horsepower, excellent numbers for the late 60s. However, the Soviet engine had significant differences, featuring an aluminium block and removable sleeves, which was the biggest advantage for repairs in Soviet conditions. In fact, due to the harsh regime of Soviet Union and various commissions, designers deliberately underspecified the engine performance, only stating 75 horsepower. As they say, it's better to exceed expectations than to underspecify. So even the production engine provided considerable opportunities for boosting, and with not much skill, it was possible to squeeze up to 90 horsepower out of it. The Moskvich is quite the sprinter, especially when you start off. But it's a real shame that the gearbox settings don't play nicely with its acceleration. The gearbox essentially inherited its main parts from the older model. Paired with significantly more powerful power unit, it just can't handle the loads and would fail pretty often. The handling isn't great at all. There was notable steering delay and excessive rolling. Moskvich has an unusually narrow body with a wheel track, combined with a high centre of gravity, which seriously reduces stability on the road. This old car can't handle the downtime, and despite spending a fortune to make it perfect, you're bound to face problems and breakdowns, especially after the long winter storage. With the Moskvich, I had the joy of full brake failure doing 40 miles per hour on a high street. But the worst part was dealing with the carburetor. It's a nightmare to get it running just right. It either gets too much air or too much fuel. Nowadays, very few people know how to tweak it properly. As a result, both past and present Moskvich drivers would usually swap it for louder carburetors, sacrificing authenticity for at least some decent performance. I didn't. That's why we drive with the choke fully out. The fuel tank cap is an actual masterpiece. First you have to pop the trunk from the driver's seat, open the trunk, pop the lid and then unscrew the cap here. Just a bit too many moves. Forget all the car's problems for a moment, none of that really matters. What truly counts is that this car is on the road today in 2023 and everyone can't help but look. Might not be the most comfortable ride in a city, and the engine could stall at any intersection, but those are the minor details. People in their fancy modern cars passing by are jealous because you have a chance to disconnect from today's fast-paced world. You're not sitting in this car for the thrill of driving. It's not like driving an old 911, it's much slower. But it's more about finding a moment of escape from daily stresses or routine. You leave behind your problems and just chill in a moment during your ride. That's what others get about. They are on the way home from work, stuck in a traffic jam, while you're right here with them. But you are driving something fun with not much worries besides your carburetor. Moskvich demonstrated that racing success can seriously boost sales, and despite its flaws, it has earned a reputation through its victories on the track. Shortly before this, the Soviet Union joined the FIA Federation and tried itself in international races with the Volga cars, which ended up in monumental failure. But Moskvich was different. It became the first Soviet car that could genuinely compete with the foreign race cars. In 1968, 4 Moskvich cars took part in a 16,000-kilometer race from London to Sydney. Remarkably, all of them crossed the finish line, leaving even more upscale cars like Mercedes, Porsche and Lotus behind, which had numerous technical issues on the way. Just before the race, the French importer of Soviet cars, Jacques Porsche, who would later become the primary sellers of Lada in Europe, was highly skeptical on the event's success. He even bet that he'd fill the trunk with expensive cognac if even one Moskvich reached the finish line, even if they had to be towed. Well, what do you know, all 4 cars reached the finish line, securing a solid 4th place in the team competition. 2 years later, in the iconic 26,000-kilometer race from London to Mexico City, 3 out of 5 Moskvich crews secured a team bronze. Next was the European Tour, where Moskvich team won the Golden Cup. In the same year, they raced in the 24 Hours of Spa, with 2 out of 3 cars finishing 5th and 6th in their class. Getting on the podium was not the aim. Instead, the primary focus was on showcasing the car's durability, which served as the most significant advertisement. This marked the golden era of Soviet car in Europe. Sales surged, becoming a vital source of foreign currency for the USSR budget. Approximately 60% of the cars were exported, not just to the socialist developing nations, but to Finland, Scandinavia and even Great Britain. After their rally marathon success, even in car-rich Britain they were selling 3,500 Moskvich vehicles annually. Even Porsche joined the scene. Porsche had its own project for Moskvich, giving the front and rear bumpers a fresh new look. As the 80s approached, the glory days of Moskvich started to dim. Export sales dropped considerably, as the car fell behind in terms of modern features like independent suspension, automatic transmission and electronic fuel injection systems found in the new foreign vehicles. The factory faced challenges from internal competition, but Moskvich models were still in production until nearly 2000s. Nonetheless, many were shifting their focus to more practical and modern Ladas. You know, Moskvich is quite something. It's a beloved classic that remains quite affordable. But what's truly remarkable is that you can still spot them on the roads of England and Europe, even today. Moskvich might be a common sight in its home country, but it still turns heads when it cruises by. Just imagine how awesome it would be to spot it running somewhere abroad.